All right, so at this point, you should have a message that scrolls, a picture that displays, and a temperature readout that tells you what the current temperature is. In the next one, we are going to try and modify another picture at the end based off of what our temperature reading is. So take a look over the page. It says you can combine your temperature reading with a picture to also indicate the temperature in a graphical way. For example, you might display a snowstorm for cold temperatures and a sunny day for hot temperatures. So if we wanted to try and do something along these lines and just use the images that they have here, you're welcome to do that. If you'd like to customize them and make your own pictures, maybe you just make one big sun with rays coming off of it for warm temperatures and a snowflake or something for cold temperatures. That would be totally fine too. Whatever you decide, whatever colors you need, we need to make some variables to represent those colors. So in this box here, you're going to make variables, single letter variable names, and then say what colors each of those variables represents. And then just like earlier, we're going to make, instead of calling it just picture, we're going to call one of these pictures hot and one of these pictures cold. That way we can store each of those pictures as separate names and display one of those pictures based off of the temperature. So we have that code to get our temperature. We can check and see if our temperature is greater than or equal to 20, which is a nice hot day, warm day, then we want to set the pixels to hot. Otherwise, if it's not greater than or equal to 20, we're going to set our pixels to cold. So let's test this out. Let's just use their images. So we'll take these hot and cold pictures, copy them, and in Trinket, let's paste them. We have hot and cold. Now, Trinket is really helpful. It highlights, it doesn't know what Y is or G is, because those are colors that they defined up here. We haven't done that yet in Trinket. So let's add those little definitions here. I have these colors right here, red, white, black, and blue. Let's add one. It needs to be called G for green. 0, 255, 0. So now those yellow highlights around the G's go away, and the Y's are yellow. Yellow is a combination of red and green with no blue. And we can test that. We just try 128 and 128 and nothing for blue. That's kind of an ugly looking yellow. Maybe we need to make it 255. Yeah, there we go. 255 and 255 instead. So let's make this 255. And this one, 255 as well. That way it's a nice yellow. So we have a hot picture, we have a cold picture. So after we've shown what the temperature is, okay, so after we've shown what the temperature is, let's check and see, like, if it's hot, if the temperature was greater than or equal to 20, then we want to tell our SenseHat to set the pixels to hot. Otherwise, else, we want to sense.set pixels to cold. That way, depending on the temperature readout, we'll get a different picture display on our SenseHat. And at this point, we've got a pretty complete program that demonstrates how to use the SenseHat. We display some images. We customize our program based off of the environmental variables. And that's a lot of pretty cool stuff that you've got in here. So we've got our picture displaying. It tells us the temperature. It is negative 6.7 degrees. And now it's going to display that cold picture. There we go, cool. And if I changed it to a hotter picture and ran it over again, then at the end it would display that nice, warm, sunny day picture instead. So the last thing to do is actually submit your code. So when you've run your code and it works and it's exactly the way you want, Then you're going to add in here a classroom code. The classroom code that you need to use is, and I didn't choose this, it was random, heavy-sugar. I don't know why it's heavy sugar, but heavy-sugar. After a second, you'll see this says the classroom code is found. It has my name on there as your teacher, and you can then continue to a form which will let you submit your work and get everything turned in. Your team name, come up with something very quick. doesn't really matter that much. The number of team members, just leave it at 2, even though you've done this individually. Get your names in there, and then have the number of females that you have in your team, and then lastly your language, and then you can submit. That's important if you want to get this in the runnings to actually run on the space station. So if you're running into problems with it, like only putting one name in there, pick another person. Pick the person sitting next to you and put their name in as well. For your team members, you can click this plus button to get an extra person added, so that you can get both people's names in there. And when you submit it, then it should be waiting to possibly run on the International Space Station, which is a pretty cool thing to be able to share out, that you've written code that runs in space. And that's it for the lesson. If you have extra time at the end of class, you may go back to your code and continue making adjustments to it or customizing it. Or if you have project work that you still want to complete for your big project, you can keep doing that as well.